clarity because the LiDAR focus on the 18 major river basins. That also included Mulaki. So that part, yes, but not all. But the good news is they just filed for extension, which will allow them to scan the entire Philippines. So they're starting in Central Luzon, and their targeted end date is on 2016. So by 2016, you'll have your LiDAR data for sure. Will that answer your question?
Yes, but that doesn't make it easy for us because 2016 is a bit way off. Nevertheless, we are aware of that. Can we get a copy of whatever you have for, I understand, Bayan watershed?
Well, whichever data we have, as soon as we process it, we upload it on our website. So you can download it over there.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah.
I think if Mr. Alon is around, I want to ask this question to him. Particularly the source of water we have in here in the city. Because one of the topic is water sufficiency. So I would like to ask the question for him with regards to the supply that we are now doing in here in the city. Now, if I may, in my own fund, mag-bilis niya ako.
Okay, sir.
What kayo ba? Very alarming in a source of water natin underground. Remember, we are in the island in the Sangguniang Bay. Usa sa mga gisog nila, kung masagulan kinig tubig nga parat kinig atong ilaw na underwater, ang atong talong di na makuha, di na bubugo. Daghang mga source of water nga surface water. Nganong di man gawin ko, kaya surface water nato aron ay pagsigit kiruguway sa ilaw, musamot o kakalisod ang atong water, ang atong source water, kay mahugba ng ilaw. Muabot ang adlaw, nga mahugno ninyo sa City, kung kita mamasod na ibabaw sa lupon. Tungkol lagi kay ang tubig sa ilaw, mo may atong ikuha, ano na nanamatay, Bayan River, Sige River, ganun di mo na makuha surface water, inay sa underground source. Muna akong pagkakala, kaya hindi alam niyo gana. Kaya magsigig ang batasok o mga liquid, mahugba mo na ilaw mo na, kaya mo, makuha mo na, masundan na salt water. Ganun di mo na makuha o surface water, nanaghan mo na, mga suba din eh, kaya nanubra mga ganina. Kaya nga naman sa ilaw, kung ito makuha ka, makaguba mo na sa atong kinaiyahan. O kung itong Santos City, umuabot ang panahon na magpasagat na sa pagkutkot o tubig, pagkutkot, para makuha ang tubig underground.
Nagwapo itong pumunta na Mr. Katong kauban na itong slides na ipakita na ko about groundwater assessment. Agihimo to siya katong tayong nag-impara ang pag-disenyo sa water supply sa GenSan. So, naghimo sila inventory sa tanang water resources sa GenSan sa tanang possible source. Way back 1991, 24 years ago, ang pinaka-feasible na makuha ang tubig is groundwater considering sa cost. Okay, kung may kang surface water kami ito, mas dako pa kung siya gasto, magpagdam ka, water treatment. Actually, sa karoon siguro nga rate, kung dahil nag-offer na mga private na mo enter into bulk water supply, pero ang tendency ato, ang water rates mo saka o as much as 40% sa existing na rate. Tumog itong primary consideration na pag sukod sa water district, wala siya nag-consider o surface water, deep water, groundwater at i-consider tungkol sa development cost na ma-involve. Punta na ito pag pagkatami na.
Mahal ang gasto na to sa surface water. O niya, puro barato ang one. Pero kung sa'yo mahal, ang kinabuhi sa mga tao may mong apektuhan ini, tungkol kay ang ilaw magkankan ng ilaw, magkankan sa ilaw, mahugno magkinagpapita. Now, remember na pinanagkakadalaw dito sa itong seawater level. So sa akong nahibawan, muabot ang panahon kung pasagda natin mamahimong mamasok na ang mga tao, imamas matutong kay kinidagat na rin.
Kanan jury sir po from Barangay San Jose.
Okay.
Bale, rejoinder lang ito. A few years back, pinakauna ang syudad sa General Santos sa pagpasa o balaod na nag-require sa mga bagong buildings o grain catchment. Pakunta na lang na po kung nahimuhan na makinig IRR sa implementation or will this really help para matigong na to ang rainfall o magamit for other uses? Salamat.
I don't think that's really necessary. Doon ay mga local ordinances already that requires buildings to catch rainwater. Okay? What is required really is to incorporate that ordinance on catching rainwater into our building permitting system. Okay? Hinay-hinay na siya. So, but this is the opportunity now na mas mapadaghan ang makabalo, no? New subdivision developers for example, kaya i-appeal na nila sa ilang disenyo ang pagtakop sa rainwater. Although i-predict sa atong scenario ganina nga there will be more warm days, but when those wet months come, dapat naka-impound po tao rainwater for our use, no? And whatever little thing we do will be able to help the community as well. Okay?
When SM Lanang was built, they were required by the city of Davao to establish an underground cistern. Why? Lanang, as you know, is a golf course. But once you took out that golf course with the ponds, the lakes, you have the water go to the community. So the government, local government required SM to build a drain catchment system under SM Premier. At first, they were resisting, but they did actually build it. That's a breakthrough. And because of that, SM has decided that for their Baguio Bowl, they will actually catch rain. They will build a rain harvesting roof that will allow them to reduce their dependence on the water district and thereby give more water for the residents of Baguio City. So these things, when a business realizes that they're not doing this as a penalty, that they're doing this because they want to help the community where they operate and they make money, that can make a really big difference.
I'm Belinda Salas from the Chamber. I agree with Sir Dan. When I used to work with Panay Energy Corporation in Iloilo City, the president of the company then also proposed the construction of a cistern for the waters, the rainwater, because Iloilo has plenty or abundant rainwater. My question is addressed to Mr. Lizardo. Sir, for the past several months, I don't really understand the concept of NOAA. I read it in many news articles and even see it on TV, but its concept totally eludes my mind. So right now, listening to you, I understand that you are a nationwide operation and assessment of hazards group. So you have no people on the ground, right? You invest in equipment and information dissemination activity, correct? Okay, more or less. So I understood that you were saying that in your information packaging, communications packaging, you realize in your Twitter and probably Facebook and social media that it is more effective if you package the information or the tweets in a way that connect to all. So from your experiments that you did, what are you using now for a communication, packaging, or branding to connect all?
Thank you for that question. Well, that's just one thing that we're using. Again, we are limited in the sense that we don't really have the capacity to share information with others. Like you said, we don't really have people on the ground. So what we do is, since the project is a group of agencies combined together to give you that information, we use the same avenue. Like for example, if we have information, we pass it through the working agencies. This is the CASA, and the RMC, LGUs, the ILG, it goes through that process. And then it's up to them how they disseminate that information. So I think that's where the creativity of communication should arise from those surveillance and warning agencies like NDRMC and especially the LGUs. No? Sa Manila, in our case in Manila, it's easy. We have television, we have other sources of information in far-flung provinces, not General Santos maybe. But in other areas, it's much more difficult to reach the people. That's where the local leader steps in. Siya dapat mag-communicate nun. So, from our end, we send it through these warning agencies. And that's where creativity should strive. Doon dapat magaling. And ultimately, dito sa local government, dapat mag-emanate yung warning na yan. So, I hope that answers your question.
So just one follow-up. So you're saying, sir, that you're just like a mechanism to help the LGU disseminate rightful information.
We're not even a mechanism, we're just part of that mechanism. We're just a part of that system. In the entire realm of disaster risk reduction, we focus primarily on disaster prevention and mitigation. So when it goes to another facet of it, let's say group response, that's entirely out of our hands. That's why, although we still feel that our job is the most important, kasi we focus on prevention and mitigation. We feel that it shouldn't reach the response anymore. But of course, that's not yet possible today. So whatever we do in our field, we do the best that we can. And it is through information that we create this. Thank you.
I am Suraida Manulama Sanayati of the Climate Change, Adaptation and Green Economy of Region 12. And I can also represent NODEV and FPOP because I'm one of their boards. Ang tanong ko po ay para po kay Mr. Tan. You never mentioned about Ligawasan Mars. At gusto ko po sanang malaman more on the Coral Triangle. Ano po ba yung nasa Coral Triangle? And you also mentioned about, of course, the Pulangin. Now, we can get out from connecting Ligawasan Mars to our waters from South Cotabato and Region 12. At ang Ligawasan Mars, if we see, is the only Maguindanao heritage that we have. Now that Ligawasan Mars, kung tumataas, it goes to Cotabato City and other neighboring communities. Hindi po ninyo na-mention yung tungkol doon. And I know Ligawasan Mars is connected to the Coral Triangle. Hindi po ba? Now, hindi ba? Hindi. Okay. I stand corrected. Now, gano'n din po kay Mr. Yung sa DOST. Gusto ko rin po malaman kung meron kayong mapping sa Ligawasan Mars. Because I am also from the Foundation of Philippine Environment, meron din po kami studies on Ligawasan Mars. Ang pangalawa po, mula sa beginning, from the very start of all the reports, there was a mention of population and health. We must also see that population, health, and environment are three interrelated issues which we have to address. Population when it rises, dapat po ay balanse rin po sa sources natin. So hindi po natin pwede iwanan ang population. And there is also a mention of health. So the more the population rises, the more that we have problems on health. And then what is, of course, the environment. So yun lang po ang aking concern. We must also study, or we must also take into consideration population, health, and environment as issues for sustainable development.
Website of the Coral Triangle, I suggest you Google it, and you will find everything you need to know about the Coral Triangle. The difference between the Coral Triangle and Ligawasan Marsh is the Coral Triangle po is sa dagat, ang Ligawasan Marsh ay tubig na lang. That's a freshwater area. Okay? I long believe that the aquifer that sits below Ligawasan Marsh could be the salvation of Western Mindanao. It's, as I mentioned, 4 times the size of Laguna de Bayo. And whenever you hear people talk about there being gold in Ligawasan Marsh, I tell them, you know what the gold is? The gold is fresh water. And every year, the water from Bukidnon flows down the Pulangi and goes into the Ligawasan Marsh because of the catchment of Western Mindanao. And guess which area in the Philippines is going to have the highest rainfall average water supply in the next 15 years? Bukidnon. So there will always be fresh water in the Ligawasa and Abusa marsh on both sides of Mindanao. What we need to understand is how we can together make use of that resource for the benefit of Mindanao. There is no reason why Mindanao should not have water. There's no reason.
We will have our local building code than the national building code. I would like to know, because there are a lot of national laws, therefore, need to be adopted locally. If that could be our line of thinking, that it will be faster if you're going to adopt the national law. Lahat ng mga national laws siguro ay dapat i-adopt na namin. Ganun kaya yun, attorney, or yung sa ano lang? What is there in the National Building Code that cause to be not easily implemented in the local government units? No, don't adopt the National Building Code. Or make our own. Draft your own, because it's what? 19 pa. Hindi na siya, marami ng changes ngayon. Like for example, as we've said a while ago, or this morning, it's been discussed this morning, right? We talk about infrastructures. We talk about where you put up or how you put up your, what do you call that? Ano nga yun? Yung, no, not that rainwater, but evacuation centers, right? About building your evacuation centers, or about building your bridges. We saw the devastation in Bohol, the roads and things like that. So you have craft your own local code, considering the changes in climate, right? How strong should your seawalls be? If your seawall is your plan of adaptation, how strong should your schools be? Because that's usually your evacuation center. How strong should your houses be? Because right now you have to consider climate change. Because our national building code was crafted when climate change was not yet in the national consciousness. So there are moves right now to come up with revising the national building code, but that would take years. The local code would also take years, but not that much. As I've said, your reproductive health, it took them 10 years. We still don't have a divorce law, that's why I'm still single. It will take years, I tell you. So maybe you should consider drafting a local code and incorporate the changes in standards of building and standards in bridges, something like that. Or as I've said, requiring rainwater harvesting. The permitting system, you can incorporate it in there instead of doing what do you call that? You have already a permit system right now, right? But it might be more strong if you put that in a local code instead. Maybe it would have more teeth.
What the norm is. Actually, yes, an age-old building code that's being implemented now. I read in Santos, or in particularly in Yahoo, that DPWH will be coming up with a new building code of 2015. So that will be next year. I was also reading some articles on the climate change adaptable sustainable building, infrastructure and architecture. And all of these are encompassed in the LEED, which is being practiced in the US, and this is also being adopted by the United States of the Philippines. This is the leadership in environment and energy development something like that that the government does. Also, we have initiatives of the National Architecture Organization like the Verde. I just forgot what Verde stands for, but it's still in line with the 1980s adaptable and sustainable infrastructure framework. So, all of this we are considering in the formulation of even the land use plan of Cernamel, and of course with the proposed local building ordinance that we will implement. Thank you very much.